Take one.
This?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Am I looking at you or the camera?
Talk to me.
Talk to you, yeah.
According to the Oxford Dictionary, a challenge is a new or a difficult task that tests somebody's ability and skill. For many cyclists in the UK, there comes no greater challenge than riding the entire length of Great Britain. From its most northerly point of John O'Groats in Scotland to the most southerly point of Land's End in Cornwall. In July of 2022, a team of 10 riders from Dorset took on this epic challenge, riding nearly 1,000 miles in just over a week, through differing terrain and varying landscapes. This is their story. This is the Handlebarmy Army.
Why ride 1,000 miles?
God, that's a tough one, isn't it?
So, that's a good question.
John O'Groats Land's End or Land's End to John O'Groats has always been there on the list.
We did this because we lost two of our friends that would have loved to have done this ride with us.
As it sort of started to drive a bit of momentum and that, it did look like it was going to really help some of the local charities. And I thought that for me was probably one of the biggest things.
Had to check with the wife, had to check with the family, make sure that was okay, make sure work was available, that I could get the time off.
So the planning was a lot longer than the training.
A slightly smaller group of us started planning the ride at the end of 2019. Then a small thing called COVID came along, so we had to revisit it over and over again.
The Zoom meetings, I think the first one was probably 2 hours. Probably an hour and a half of shit and half an hour of actual important stuff.
So Bobby was a good person for doing some meeting instigating and haranguing the troops.
All the important things we got nailed down. So we made sure we got those flights booked. We made sure we got the taxis booked.
It was really important to get jersey sponsorship. To get that help meant that it was probably £1,000 each per rider to do it. When we went round to Moe's to try it on the first time as well, you were genuinely like putting it on, thinking things are getting serious now.
God knows why we wanted to do the route from north to south, because everybody really does it the other way, from Land's End to John O'Groats.
One theory was that it was downhill, which is a nice one. I think it's actually, you end up going slightly more up than down. Well, if you start at the top and come down, it's like you're coming home, isn't it?
During the planning, I was a bit worried that we'd get bad weather, prevailing headwinds, which is why no one really does it the way that we did it.
Once we had the van at Dad's house, that for me was when we were good to go, because there was a little bit of concern that we might not get the van on the day before. We might have to pick it up in the morning.
Definitely wasn't allowed to handle any of the bikes. Cases, yes, not a problem, but the bikes, no, strictly off limits. We got them all loaded, and then we were ready to go.
Then on the day, taxi came, picked us up from Mo's house, and the taxi driver announces he's taking us to Heathrow, and we were all like, we're going to Gatwick, mate. The flight's from Gatwick. Administrational error on their behalf, but we sorted it out.
Yeah, everyone I think was a little bit apprehensive about how things were going to go, but in general, yeah, spirits were quite high, I think.
Day 1, John O'Groats to Invershin. With 105 miles and 6,000 foot of climbing, the scale of what they have chosen to take on hits home fast.
When we all woke up in the morning and you're there, and like the first day, you're all prepping your kit and you're like, okay, right, what do I need this? Do I need this?
Well, initially I was like, can we hurry up? Because everyone seemed to take for ages.
when we got down to the sign, that's when it really started to dawn on me a bit.
It's quite an iconic sign to go stand by. Everyone having their photos taken as a group and individually. I mean, that takes a while as it is. But yeah, then I just wanted to get going, really.
Dad, we said, right, we're going to just follow you behind for the first bit. And I said, yeah, mate, that's probably the best thing to do. Just follow behind. It's not busy roads. You don't have to worry about the map. You can get used to it.
First turning, you go one way, we go another. I'm thinking, this is going to be an absolute nightmare.
And then all of a sudden I see the van driving down the lower road, thinking they've obviously missed a turning. So I ring Dad. I said, Dad, you happy with the route? You know where we've gone? Yeah, we're just behind you. I said, Dad, I've just seen you drive past on another road. He said, okay, we're not happy with the route then. Don't worry, we'll come and find you.
We stopped the lady and said, have you seen a load of cyclists? And she said, no, we haven't. And then we clocked you, and luckily we caught up.
So the excitement at the start quickly wore off when you turn the corner and we're cycling along the north coast of Scotland into a 35-mile-an-hour headwind. That's tough going for first thing in the morning on the first day. You think, have I got 9 days of doing this?
Jonesy comes off his bike on some loose gravel. He comes off at the back of the group and he has a huge graze down the side of his leg. And everyone's like, God, I hope the rest of the week doesn't go on like this. This is going to be brutal if this is the first day.
And I was thinking, we're only 20 minutes into this ride, a half hour into this ride, and we've already got someone come off.
Well, I stopped to help try, didn't I? Just, being nice, placing him back on, and then over I went. Bit of loose gravel.
What's the lesson then? Don't help.
Don't help anybody, don't stop to help
Top
anyone.
gear rules, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Top gear rules apply. After we had a first initial stop, that's when the wind really, really hit. I've never rode in wind like that. Out of choice or out of necessity, it was brutal.
I would say the first 80k was the hardest 80k I've ever ridden in my whole life by miles. And I felt so bad that I nearly quit. I knew I would never get another opportunity really again to do this, that I kind of just stubbornly pushed myself sort of through it. If this had been any other day, any other ride, I would have just gone home.
I think luckily for most of us that we were quite energetic and excited about doing the ride, that first day kind of got brushed under the carpet a little bit, with our sort of high spirits essentially, because it was a bit grim.
When we were riding straight, it wasn't too bad because you were just riding into the wind, but the times that we did the climbing, we were getting blown all over the place. I got blown literally off the road at one point, but you were going uphill, so you were going quite slow, albeit as fast as I could.
It was hard, but I had nothing really to compare it to. And obviously, because it was the first day, I was just like, right, I know it's going to be hard, so I just need to dig in.
When we stopped for lunch, it was it was the best stuff the whole trip for me because it came at the right time.
After lunch, I think the scenery just got better and better. There was times where I was cycling along and thinking, you could be anywhere right now. It's not what I pictured Scotland to be.
But these roads were at some point single lane for 50 kilometres, and there was nothing other than farmhouses and some people on the river having a fish.
This open roads, lots of scenery, rivers, forests. It's really nice there. There's loads to take in, and I think generally we all just were talking and cycling as a group, and just having a good time. Really, it was nice.
But towards the end, I think POW started to just drop off a little bit, and it was nothing that anyone was concerned about because we knew that probably everyone during that whole trip were going to have times where actually you're not feeling as strong. So it was a case of, we'll just have to recognise when somebody was dropping off. And I fully expected that it could be tomorrow, could be later, could be 2 days time, that might be me dropping off the back. So it's really important that the whole team sort of recognised it, and especially Jonesy and the Williams brothers, they were spot on.
As we got towards the end of that first day, it was a great feeling seeing that sign for Invershire, because we knew the end was in sight.
Crashing is obviously not something which you do intentionally. Just a bit too excited to finish. The camera was there. Bobby, I think, had already beaten me at that point to the finish line, but we kind of just swept into the hotel.
Loose gravel again, straight down. Big rip in his nice new shorts.
And that was it. Down I went, and on a bike you don't need to go down very quickly to kind of hurt yourself. So that was, thumb, shoulder, knee, side. I felt good before that as well. There you go.
Well done, boys. All right, you guys all checked in?
Yeah.
You're all in the bunk out.
We're in a bunk beds, bunk room.
You saved me the penthouse.
Day 2, Invershire to Tomintoul. A slightly shorter day than the previous one, but with more climbs to battle. This would be a tough day in the saddle.
That first night at the Invershire Hotel was actually pretty decent, and I don't think some of the lads really wanted to leave.
Breakfast was good. Like, I felt like it was only us there. I'm sure there must have been others, but I felt like we had the place. Like, they did porridge and toast and all the rest of it.
Fed up with cycling into the wind. Need something a bit more aero. Should have brought a TT bike.
The first day had taken it out of a lot of us, I think, and Rossi, he struggled with that headwind. It was a big old bike, and when he was on it, he was like a wind sheet, basically, wasn't he? So he made the decision, which I think was the right decision, to go on the road bike.
When we started on the second day, there was definitely, felt miles on the legs. When hopefully second day, I was hoping not to feel that bad. Again, I crashed as well, so that probably didn't help.
Good luck, guys. Thanks for the goal.
You then felt I'm riding in some serious terrain, which I wasn't expecting actually for it to be that brutal.
The hills were tough. The hills were tough. You know, you're sort of going up at your pace, and before you know it, like other people could be either miles in front of you or like really far behind you, and you didn't want the group to be too far apart, because otherwise those people dropping off the back are definitely going to like feel really bad.
We were potentially going to have a split of groups, and it's something that we kind of discussed, that we might have had a split of groups, but we didn't want to. Coming into Tomintoul was hard. The landscape was mountainous, and you're thinking, this is tough.
The last climb up before you then drop down into Tomintoul, again, I can't remember riding on a climb like that. It was really, really hard, but incredible at the same time. But they built these roads, and not only, it wasn't like a C road or a B road, it was a fucking A road.
It was like a biker night or a biker festival. So straight away I was thinking, well, where are we going to eat? Like, what are we going to do with all these people around? We're going to be up all night listening to bikes sort of bombing up and down. Turned out they were a lovely bunch, and very misunderstood, those bikers.
Day 3, Tomintoul to Queensferry. 115 miles and over 7,000 foot of climbing through the Scottish Highlands. Hopefully the boys had a good night's sleep.
When you've done 2 brutal days of cycling, actually probably a hostel is not the place you want to be. 2 bunk beds, me and Sarge, Dad and Ronnie, 1 bathroom, 1 shower. It was a interesting night's sleep, to say the least.
We left early because it's a lot of climbing. We knew that it was going to be a tough day. Straight away, you're into the mega steep climb. Like, you could probably walk as quickly as we were cycling up some of these hills up to the top of ski resorts.
You really had to get into the top gear and just grind away. On top of that, we started to experience the heat wave that was taking over the rest of the UK.
The day just dragged on, and it was sunny, it was hot, it was hard. But that's what it was supposed to be.
I can remember the van coming past us, and you could see the road so steep that I could see the roof of the van from a distance. And that's when it sort of hit home, thinking, I've got to cycle up there in a minute.
Probably one of the scariest things I've seen on a bike was Mr. Trotter coming down Lecht.
My meter read at about 55 miles an hour as the wind caught a side wind. Bike got a wobble on, impossible to stop it. I literally hang on for my life. But the bike got so much of a wobble on, my water bottles flew out, my cages, lost them, they went over the side of the cliff. So never to be seen again.
Stopped in Braemar. Yeah, lovely little town. Ross went and bought everything that the shop sold, I think. So yeah, it just felt like a really nice place to start. Nice, and yeah, just what we needed. Got the energy on to do the next bit.
I think it was only 5 or 10 minutes after leaving Braemar and heading towards Glenshee that we noticed Powell was really starting to struggle and dropping back. Jonesy was an absolute hero. He stayed back and helped guide Rich up that climb.
The second ski resort, Glenshee, was long, just seemed to go on forever and ever, climbing for probably 45 minutes.
I really like climbing at that gradient. You can see what you're going up, you can see where you're going to. The gradient was probably 5-6%, and you can just get into a rhythm, and you're not in a rush. Those are the points that you really want to take in.
You know you're going to get there, and it was no one was like rushing people on or getting to the top and waiting. It was a case of, right, here we go, in your own time, just get up there.
So I jumped in I almost jumped in the stream fully clothed. I was that hot when I got to the top. I just had to get in. I just took my hat off, took my shirt off. I just went down, had a little wash, threw some cold water over me. I felt 100 times better afterwards. I did try and ask Power if he wanted to get in there, but he's not having it.
And so everyone was quite upbeat, but Pow was on a bit of a downer, I think. He was really struggling at this point.
You know, everyone's different, and I think when you don't know what's coming for some people, and you're already feeling horrendous, you see other hills in the distance, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. It's pretty brutal.
He decided it was his time. He'd done as much as he could. Yeah, and that was the end of his ride. He got in the van.
It is a challenge. Yeah, I'd have preferred if we all made it. I wanted everyone to accomplish it.
Go, Daddy, go! Yes!
We had a good idea the day before of what the route looked like. So we knew, for example, once you got on that day, those big climbs out of the way, it was a nice sort of fairly flat or descent into wherever we were staying.
When we went into Queensferry over the bridge, like we knew that the hotel was pretty much the end of that bridge, and we were done.
And it's I'm pretty sure the sign said prohibited bicycles on the road. There was a cycle path on either side of it. Obviously, the Williams brothers and some of the others don't care. Off they go, straight down the road. We stopped and had some photos on the bridge, and then followed into Queensferry.
Day 4. Queensferry to Carlisle. A flatter day, perhaps, but still 110 miles to push through to cross the border into England.
I think most people had a really decent night's sleep at the Dakota, so we were feeling quite fresh on the morning of day 4. It was a bit sad though, because Powell said his goodbyes to everyone.
I think we were all disappointed really that he's there and that he was going to be going home. Yeah, I think Dad and Powell had a little bit of a frosty goodbye, but I'll let them speak about that.
I didn't really want Rich to throw the towel in. It was one of those things that, you know, I respect his decision, and, you know, that's that. It's just a shame, really.
Well, I think day 4 was the day I nearly died. So the scenery was bleak, but I didn't care because I didn't look at it anyway. And I just, basically on day 4, all I see was Ross's bum and this huge mountain bike wheel.
Everyone in a line, you've all run out of stuff to talk about. We've been together 4 days. And you're just like, let's get this day over and done with.
The monotony of some of the A roads were tough. When you can just see a long straight road in front of you that's maybe a bit rough is emotionally and mentally challenging, I think, for anybody on a bicycle, that to keep pushing on and getting to the next point.
Sarge, he was struggling a bit that day, and normally he's pretty strong, pretty on it, but he was struggling.
My body was just shutting down. It was saying, like, you've got to stop doing what you're doing. And it just didn't fancy it. I couldn't eat.
I think we stopped for about 40 minutes, and I think he slept for half an hour.
There were times where I was thinking, right, if I get in the van, I'll get in the van on this day, and then I'll help the lads get to Bath, wherever it might be, and then I'll finish. Because I just felt that bad, so it was very much just, right, how much can I get through the next 10k? Can I do the next bit?
Yeah, he got back on the bike, and we all got back on, and we knew we were going to be going into England that day, so that sort of, I think, spurred us on a bit more.
And everyone was talking about Gretna Green, and I don't know anything about Gretna Green, but a lot of people were talking about Gretna Green, thinking, oh, we're in Gretna Green. And I was almost like a little bit distracted by that when we seen the England sign, I'm sure like a load of us kind of like rode past it, and then we were like, oh, we better stop and get photos and stuff.
Well, I would like to say I got to England first, by the way. Just get that in the video.
Going into England, you've probably done maybe 380, 400 miles, something like that by then.
We had quite a good time at the England sign, from what I remember.
We got to Carlisle, got a decent night's sleep, and then, yeah, things improved after that.
We thought about doing Airbnbs, and actually I'm so glad we didn't, because actually when you've done a whole day cycling and you've got a Premier Inn, you could take your bikes in and have a shower, and it was a nice feeling.
Day 5, Carlisle to LEJOG, a world apart from the beauty of Scotland. 116 miles and nearly 6,000 foot of climbing lay ahead, nearly halfway there.
I remember talking to Steph from Saddle Drunk, and he just said, get past day 3. Once you get past that, your body will just get used to it. And he was right.
So you missed the Sarge. You missed the city services. You're fast asleep, mate.
That was yesterday. Bit of speed radio.
We started cycling, and Trotter had started to drop off a little bit. Like, he was complaining about his legs. Everyone was putting it down to the fact that Trotter started off like a bat of hell for the first couple of days. Like, he was flying, and everyone was saying, "You're going to regret that, mate. It's a long trip. Like, it's a marathon, not a sprint."
Mentally, very, very strong. Physically, his body is fucked.
I just admired the way that he just kept going. There was no way in this world that he was going to give up.
Thankfully, what the support van's for, they went, and they got me some compression socks to help me to literally hold my legs together.
As we were going up these climbs, they're quite like narrow country roads with the classic stony walls all the way up. It was a bit misty and a bit like drab,
but we had a really, really nice pace going up that climb up the Shap.
A bit refreshing to have a bit of moisture in the air, although the view was crap when we got to the top because you couldn't really see anything.
And it was one of the very few climbs, I think, that probably the majority of us were all together. So we knew that all we had to do was drop down into Kendal, we'd have lunch, and it was a fairly decent rest of the ride. Ronnie being Ronnie, he's over there, he's chatting to the ladies and making sure that they know what we're doing and why we're doing it.
What was her name? Sue's calf. She felt compelled to then give a donation, and you've got people that you don't know giving you 20 quid, which 20 quid might not sound like a lot, but she has absolutely no connection with us. And again, you just think they're doing that because of what we're doing.
Town centres, excuse my French, but Preston was a shithole.
Wigan, shithole. Preston, shithole.
We had coffee thrown at us, people spraying their bottles at us. I think even Mo had a coat thrown at him. I mean, it's like mental, the mentality of people, how they changed from being in a rural setting into a city setting.
Yeah, day 4 and day 5, I've almost forgotten in my head because they were crap. But you had to do them to make it.
And the thing you dreaded, or we dreaded this whole trip, was getting there and them saying, no rooms.
I'm like, oh, I'll go in, I'll sort it out. I've got all the booking confirmation on my phone. Don't worry, lads, I've got this.
By the time Trotter had got in and he comes back to the van and goes, right, sorry lads, I booked it for tomorrow.
Luckily, the hotel did sort us out, so sorry lads.
Day 6, Haydock to Ludlow, the flattest day so far. But when is riding over 100 miles ever classed as a rest day? Answers on a postcard.
Scott was the one who exceeded my expectations the most. A couple of times he went out and blew up on some group rides in training. But when we got on the ride, he was the man. He was the one at the front. He was pulling everyone along. He didn't look like he was even tired at the end of the day. He was just a machine, that boy, yeah.
Annoying,
It's annoying, yeah.
People were more confident to go on the front and things like that as well when it was nice and flat and you knew that you weren't going to need some energy at the end. So I think it was just a nicer day's riding. It felt more like riding as a group and as a team sort of thing.
When we previously rode to Manchester, I don't think it was exactly the same, but in terms of like the kind of scenery that we're going through and the road, at some points we were definitely recognised it, albeit doing it the other way.
In there was some proper steep climbs again, where with my legs in the shape they were in, they were starting to really hurt, and anything climbing where you put more pressure through your shins was really affecting my riding. Yeah, we got to this one big hill, everyone dropped me, I was at the back, and I pretty much died on the van as I got there. Just wanted to get some fuel in me, ate my banana, ended up throwing it, not looking, straight out the side, smashed Rossi straight in the face with a banana skin. Can't say he was best pleased with that.
These roads were really starting to feel like what we used to riding back home. Very similar to the north of Dorset, country lanes. It was a decent ride into Ludlow, and we made it in good time to get some proper rest.
Good fun, wasn't it? Sweating a bit.
Day 7, Ludlow to Bath, riding through Wales, then over the Severn Bridge, back into England. The southwest is finally in sight. Oh, and it's Chopper's birthday.
From everybody.
Cheers, boys.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Chopper. Happy birthday to you.
Great way to spend my birthday with my best friends. Day 7, when the climbs kind of came back in, that group mentality for me was like we were a team.
We'd obviously done the mountains, which were long, continuous ones, whereas these ones were really, really steep.
Fuck me.
And I can remember one where it was a country lane. It was all enclosed by trees, but I felt like I was almost going backwards. But yeah, I just had to keep going. I think I was growling to myself. It was that hard. Had to really dig in.
It was nice to see some better scenery, definitely, and you get in and out of the saddle because of some of the climbs and stuff. So you're a bit more sort of active on the bike.
You almost had to split the days into small chunks and just get to certain points. And getting through Wales and getting to the Severn Bridge was definitely one of those.
We're pretty south now. That's we're nearly home. There's a couple of days left. This is it. I think this is going to be all right now.
One thought I did have in my head is, well, the last time I was on this road, I was with 2 people that weren't with us anymore.
For me, once we got to Bath, 2 more days, dig in.
As nice as it was getting to Bath and being somewhere that we all know, it was also kind of a sad time because we lost Ronnie and Graham, who've been with us the whole way, like supported us, like been there every step.
I do wish that we'd gone all the way. I do wish that we'd gone to Land's End. We enjoyed what we'd done.
They're non-stop, taking the piss or making jokes out of each other as well.
They were really good at picking like nice spots and spots that weren't too far apart from each other throughout the ride that enabled you to get like a decent, a nice little rest.
As soon as there was a steep hill, you knew that the van would be there at the top waiting with Ronnie and Graham with their big smiles, their enthusiasm. The water bottle was already open, waiting for us to just top our bottles up. Yeah, they were brilliant, those 2.
54 years ago it was a bit of fun. Now you're getting on my fucking tip.
Day 8. Bath to Oakhampton. The penultimate day of the trip. The team push on through Somerset and into Devon.
Thankfully, Sarge came to the rescue with his local knowledge and took us on this diversion that cut out this horrible climb.
Ends up being a really nice surface, nice new cycle path straight out down into Radstock, and then off we were on our way down Cheddar Gorge.
I've never been to Cheddar Gorge. I've seen kind of like pictures, but not really understood like what it was or the actual like extent of how long it went on for. You felt you were riding through somewhere spectacular, which is what it was. And we were also cycling downhill, which really helped. I much rather cycle down it than up it.
Unbelievably, we'd managed to get pretty much the whole trip without having any mechanical issues whatsoever. I think Scott had some slight bend in one of his rear mechs that he managed to square off, but that was it.
Don't follow Chopper's wheel if you want to keep your tyres intact. You don't get any signals. Yeah, you just got to take what you're following at that point.
Fat boys at the back. Go on. Fat boys at the back. Come on. You sluts.
Come on, you sluts. Get in there.
We're coming down another pretty steep hill, reasonably quick, and all I hear is Jonesy call out, puncture, puncture. I'm going too quick, I'm not stopping. The group's quite spread out anyway. So in my head, I'm like, right, I need to crack on, I need to catch everyone up. So I'm like bombing it down, shouting at everyone, stop, stop, stop. But we were quite spread out. By the time I got to the front person to tell them that Jonesy's got a puncture, we're probably like a couple of miles ahead of where Jonesy's actually broken down.
We were lucky that we didn't have many mechanicals, because that really could spin the ride completely out. And I think we ended up going off, and luckily the stronger riders were left and they managed to catch us up quite quickly afterwards.
It was super hot by this point and we needed plenty of water breaks. I think by the time we actually got into Oakhampton at the end of that night, we got through 45 litres of water.
Day 9. Oakhampton to Land's End. The end is in sight. After 8 grueling days in the saddle, can the boys make it to the finish line intact?
You too. I'll see you later.
I felt like we'd achieved so much prior to day 9. You know, we'd battled out those eight days. We all felt good.
I think, yeah, everyone just was in a good place physically by that stage, apart from Trotter with his dodgy legs. But yeah, everyone knew going into that day that they were going to get to the end, I think. You were probably fitter than you started, your legs were probably stronger. And actually, if you needed to empty the tank on those last hills, then you could, because it didn't matter. You didn't have to ride the next day.
There was lots of climbing in the last day, but also when you climbed, you actually went downhill this time. Lots of scenery. We went up through Bodmin, went through a little place called Minions.
I knew it was going to be a hard day as well. The last couple of days were hard, but you know you're that close, so you just have to dig in. And I was falling off the back on every climb on the last day. And Jonesy, bless his heart, like he stuck with me the whole time, and he never came past me once to me on a climb. So I never felt that I was exposed out the back. He was always behind me, and yeah, that really did help.
Last day, you think that's it, we're there, but you're not. You know, you still got to ride over 100 miles, and climbing wise, it had the most climbing in it. There's no getting away from that. And people think, oh yeah, Devon and Cornwall like really easy, but there was a lot of climbing.
There always seemed to be a hill. Like there was one flat bit I remember towards the middle of the day, where I think we were going through one of the moors. But other than that, it was just up and down and up and down.
We'd already like smashed the previous 8 days, and we'd done all those climbs. I think people felt like they could achieve it without, you know, it was hard, but I felt like they could achieve it without dwelling on it too much and thinking about it too hard.
That last day seemed to actually go quite fast. It probably was just the adrenaline from everyone knowing that we were going to make it. You could get off the bike and not have to touch it again.
I'm on the front somehow, and I suddenly decide I'm going to stop, take a picture of this thing without telling anyone, anchor up on the brakes, and we nearly have a full-on collision of 9 bikes, which hasn't happened for the whole trip, nearly caused by me.
Probably Aggie from like day 5, but definitely Aggie on like day 9, so everyone's, you know, shouting at Trotter and calling him stuff.
Sort of doing it with your mates that you don't all get to see in a group that much anymore was great, and to spend time with them all and just chat shit is is great.
We were chatting to each other like, we've done it, like this is it, like enjoy this moment. And yeah, you start hearing that the hooters and clapping, and
you had this nice sweeping drive almost towards this the finish line, which was then flooded with people that we knew, were making lots of noise. So it was just a really sort of nice storybook ending to the trip, really.
You look down, you see it, and you can't really believe it. You kind of think there's a lot of people there, and there's a lot of noise.
I knew there was going to be people there, but it was unexpected to like get like that ovation.
You're scanning because there's so many people there, and you're scanning to see. Like in fact, like I was trying to find Leanne, I couldn't see where she was, and then you see her, and then you kind of think, yeah, made it.
It was a really warm welcome from everybody, and I think that really helped drive home that the sense of achievement of what you'd done, was probably one of the happiest times that I've ever had.
There was even random people there. They're hugging you and congratulating you, and you're like, I don't know who you are, but thank you very much. Give them a hug.
I think we all got quite emotional, really, to say that we'd made it. So it was great, and thanks to everyone that made the trip down to see us. It's really appreciated.
That feeling for the next, wow, it must have been 3 or 4 hours was amazing. We had a beer. It was, yeah, superb feeling.
It didn't take me long to like sink in what we'd done. Like when we saw that kind of like the lighthouse and everything like that, and to get the photos as a team, I thought it was incredible. We finished, and then we knew that we had that time together to just like pat each other on the back and just say, like, you know, we smashed it.
I'm immensely proud of all of you, you know, but that goes without saying. But yeah, 100%. Well done.
What would Cavanagh Senior think about what you did?
Oh, you bastard! Are you doing this on purpose?
After Dad had died, like Cav sent me like a message just saying about like how he'd be up for the trip, let me know, and that it had to be something epic. The fact that he wasn't able to come and how he died and everything like that was just like horrendous, but we did it for them.
I think his dad would be super proud of him for what he's managed to achieve, getting everybody involved and raising the amount of money that he's managed to help raise. It wouldn't have been possible without him setting that in motion in the first place. So I think his dad would be super, super proud.
Cav and Senior both were probably looking down on us. Cav would have had a Guinness in hand, Senior probably a glass of wine. And yeah, they would have loved it. They would have loved to have been there, but they would definitely appreciate the effort that we put in.
Well, I missed Cav's chat. I think he had made a bloody joke out of everything, so yeah. I think I was missing his sarky remarks and just like general banter. And Senior, Chubby says he wouldn't have been able to do it, but I think he would have done. There's no way he would have watched us do it without him doing it as well. I think he had broken some land speed records going down some of these hills. We might have had to wait for him a little bit to get up them, but he would have definitely made up for it on the downhill. That is probably the first like challenge, cycling big challenge I've done when Senior hasn't like been there really. So in some ways, you were expecting to turn around and like see him, but yeah. Bastard. Good, mate. Oh, you bastard. Are you doing that to everyone?